doing? Great. It's a nice night, right? Who's a senior here? Get excited, you guys. You're seniors. You're at your college fair. We're there, right? We're looking at colleges. We're learning about information. We're getting some good information as well for financial aid. This is an exciting time to start looking and start thinking, right? Again, my name is Amy. I'm a counselor over in admissions at Sacramento State University, part of the California State University system. So this presentation is definitely geared towards a CSU overview, right? It's all of them in general, because there's a lot of different choices. Students out there, who's looking at multiple CSUs? Cool. Yeah, which you should, right? It's important to keep your options open and think about all the options that you have available to you, right? We use the same application that we're going to talk about in a second as well, so it's definitely good to keep your options open. Some parts of the presentation, though, they are campus specific. So although we're going to talk about some things that all the CSUs have in general, I strongly encourage each and every one of you to reach out to specific universities too. They'll have an Amy counterpart at that university too, okay? So they can answer those specific questions. Okay, so this is just some information about kind of the layout of the CSUs, right? You can see we're kind of all the way located all the way down the map into California, the top being Humboldt, and it looks like the very bottom being San Diego State. Located all across California, okay? Each campus has its own university. I get that question a lot, right? What's the difference between all these CSUs? A lot of it, it's just a different personality, a different feel to the campus. You'll notice that Sac State, it's in the capital, right? It has that environment for those, the political science is a very big program, government, business is a really good, just in Sacramento, nursing, because we have so many nursing programs. Geographically, it matters where the CSU is located. So that's also a factor what comes into each campus. Academic focus. Every CSU has different majors. Some of them are very specific to the CSU that you want to attend, right? We don't all have the same majors. We'll talk about majors a little bit later, but we will have some popular ones kind of across the board, which you might be finding out now talking to college recruiters, is that this major seems to be kind of at everybody, right? Special geographic features we talked about. You'll notice that students, when making choices, sometimes geography plays into it, right? It shouldn't be the only thing. So students who are like, I want to go to Southern California, I like the climate better, so then they look at these CSUs falling below. Some students, they like the cooler weather, right? So they're kind of staying up in Northern California. So geographically, obviously we're very different, okay? Discover CSU campus. Campus tours, students. Who has taken a campus tour of a college? Okay, perfect. I strongly encourage students to take a campus tour of the campus that they're interested in if possible, okay? I have a lot of students who have never gone to this campus before, so I'll get a phone call, right? And it's, the first day of the semester, and it's a parent. My daughter is at this school, and it's her first time there. She's never been there before, but this is her first day, and she hates it. Right? She doesn't like the environment, she doesn't like the campus, she's never been there before, so we didn't know. Is it too late for her to come back home and go to Sac State? What do you all think the answer is? Yes, it is way too late at that point to change campuses, right? Please don't give yourself any surprise. Do some research if it's a faraway campus and you can't make the visit. Do some research into the campus and look at it, right? Campus tours are an excellent way to get a feel for where you're at and where you're going to be. You're going to be at this place, students, for a while, right? If you're planning on staying there your whole time doing your bachelor's degree or even moving on into the master's or doctorate, you're going to be here for a while, right? So make sure it's an area where you want to be at and you feel comfortable being there, okay? So that's kind of my lecture to students who haven't done a campus tour to go and view the campus. Open houses. This is also a really good opportunity to go and view have the campus and have an open day to go and view it. Kind of like a big college fair, but just for that campus. Chico is a really big one, like East Bay has a really big one. Sac State's, it's gonna be this Saturday, so that's a really big one as well. This is an opportunity to talk to majors, okay? So if you have questions specifically for a major department, they'll be there, clubs and organizations. It's just a fun day to get a feel for a campus life and talk and ask those specific questions. It's also a day where you can get everything done, right? There's an admissions person there, like me. Our whole admissions department puts it on. Financial aid department, if you have questions specifically about your financial aid for Sac State, major department. So it's just an opportunity to get a lot done all in one day, okay? So if you can make the trip, I would strongly encourage attending at least one of those. CSU Mentor we don't use anymore. Hopefully seniors, you know we use the Cal State Apply now. Outreach counselors like myself, there's tons of counselors in that room next to us, right? From different campuses that you can go and talk to and ask those specific questions. And ask those in-depth questions that have to do with their campus. Outreach counselors, we go all across the board, right? Not me, I stay local, which is nice. But there'll be campuses where they send local or they'll send outreach counselors all over, okay? So it's a good opportunity to talk to someone at these college fairs because, you know, when else are you gonna talk to Sonoma or San Jose, right? So just some things to keep in mind when you go to these college fairs. Take advantage of who you're talking to, okay? Strength in numbers, nation's largest four-year public university system. It is a really big system. Parents and families, anyone a graduate of a CSU? Yeah, anyone a graduate of Sac State? Yeah, okay, so largest university system, a lot of people in the California areas, just all over, go to the CSUs, the state system. 3 million alumni strong, so awesome for my alumni in the room. What they offer, different, so we'll offer bachelor's degrees, either a BA or a BS, a bachelor's in arts or a bachelor's in science, okay? We also offer master's degrees too, so even furthering your education with a master's degree, and again, even furthering it more with a doctorate degree. Students are like, oh gosh, I'm just thinking about bachelor's right now. But if you are thinking about taking the next step and continuing on, we will offer the master's and the doctorate degrees at the CSU level as well. Also, what is important, which was one of my favorite parts about the CSU, we have an emphasis on workforce preparation. A lot of our programs are very hands-on, rather than just being in a room and learning about it. We're actually doing it. At Sac State, I love to use the example, is anyone interested in mechanical engineering? Cool, yeah, our mechanical engineering program, they're actually building things, right? They have a lab specifically for these majors to build these awesome things with lockers and materials and equipment to actually do it. So the CSU does a really good job on preparing students for what comes afterwards, right? Because although college is fun, right? The 4 years, we're learning, we're doing, we're getting involved, it's also important to think about what comes after that point, okay? So just some things to keep in mind when you're looking at what schools you're gonna be applying to, because there are very good school systems, the UCs, the privates, the community college, the CSU, we're all preparing students, but it's just important to figure out which one works for you. Okay, what can I study? Who knows what their major is gonna be? Those of you who are applying now. Okay, it's a very good idea to start thinking about this now, okay? You would be very surprised at the number of art applicants we get just because it's the first one on the list, right? They'll just pick it and move on. We wanna make, I call it an educated choice, okay? It's an educated choice that's gonna help a student kind of build off of that once they go through orientation, once they're a current student. It's your major that you're putting on your college application. So please make sure that you're taking that choice, that educated choice, and take it very seriously, okay? But these are some different programs that you can study at the CSU level. Business, that was what my undergrad degree is when I went to Sac State, so I'm a little biased with best major. Business is up there, computer science, dance is also on the list, engineerings are big, political science is also getting pretty big. But I also like to bring up as well that there are majors that are gonna be popular across the CSU wide. Business is a big one. Nursing is becoming an increasingly popular major, right? I've gotten a lot of nursing major questions today, okay? It's gonna be just one of those popular programs because it's becoming an increasingly popular field, okay? Biology, psychology, those tend to be the big ones across the CSU wide. But again, we all have different majors. So it's important to, if you don't see your program at one CSU, hey, it might be at another one, right? Cal Poly Pomona has a really good aerospace engineering program, right, for students who want to do that specific field. Sonoma State has a really good wine study business, okay, just because naturally where it's located, right? Cal Poly San Luis Obispo has a really good agriculture program. So these schools will offer very specific programs that you might not think exist, but it does because it just so happens to be where it's located and just so happens to be at this only CSU. So take the time, if you haven't submitted your application yet, to do some research into the different schools and see what major fits best for you, because there are really a lot of cool things that you can do that you wouldn't think exist just looking at the application, right? Take your time, do some research, talk to some college representatives, review the catalog, the websites, and make that educated choice. Make sense? Yeah? Okay, next slide. So, big ticket item, right? Cost. So, this is the basic tuition fee listed, and it's per year. This number, though, it is kind of the closest average that we can make, but it really, really does depend per campus. So we'll do Sac State for an example, but this is kind of like the basic tuition fee that we can average from all the CSUs, okay? And it totally depends on campus-based mandatory fees that are specific to each campus. Food and housing, not every student chooses to go to a CSU where they have to live on campus, so that changes. Transportation, if they're walking, if they're driving, all of these factor in to the fees and how much it costs to go to a CSU, okay? That number, the 5,472, that is the closest average that you'll get if you're like, what is across the CSU-wide, what number am I gonna be looking at? This is tuition, right? Basic tuition fees. Just to take classes as a full-time student. Doesn't take into account food, housing, transportation, just to take classes. Next slide. Okay, so this is a Sac State example, okay? And I also like to use this part to kind of tell students the questions they should be asking, right? Because if you go to a college counselor and you're like, how much does it cost to go there? That is such an open-ended question, right? There's specific wording that you can use to get the number that you need. You'll notice at the top, tuition fees. Those are direct costs. That is the important number that you want to ask college recruiters or college counselors like myself. How much are your direct costs, your tuition fees, to take classes there as a full-time student? At Sac State, it costs about $7,300 a year, $7,310. You pay per semester, so you just cut that in half. It's about $3,600 a semester to take classes as a full-time student at Sac State. Then you get into these scary, like, big numbers here on the bottom, right? When you're like 17,000 and it just gets bigger and bigger. This depends per campus, and this is what varies specifically for students because every student is different. Every student has a different situation going on. Living on campus, that $14,000, that's what's gonna cost to live on campus, including a meal plan as well, okay, for Sac State. But again, not every student lives on campus, so that number changes, right? Books and supplies. Not every student chooses to buy that brand new book from the bookstore that hasn't been marked, has never been opened, brand new. Yeah, you're probably looking at spending almost $2,000 a year on books. But again, the number varies. Transportation, if you're driving to campus, if you're not, these numbers change. So students, when you're asking those important questions, which fees and costs, parents are like, yes, an important question. When you're looking at those important questions, you're wanting to ask those college counselors the right question. Tuition, direct costs, okay? So just some things to keep in mind when you're looking at answering, getting those questions answered, because every college counselor will know that direct cost number. Next slide. How to pay for college. College is expensive, okay? So, but there are some ways. Who's filled out their FAFSA? OMG, everyone needs to at least start looking at the FAFSA, right? It opens in October as well as the application. The FAFSA, the information that you input into your FAFSA determines what kind of financial aid you get, okay? So students ask me that all the time, well, how do I pay for college? It depends on the information that you have put on your FAFSA. And it's really important, students, to be as accurate as you can be when filling out this FAFSA, your financial aid application, okay? Some things you could be eligible for: grants, work study, direct loans. Loans come last, right? We want to make sure we're working to the grants and scholarships first if you're eligible for them. Cal grants are going to be the most popular. CSU Educational Opportunity Program. If you're looking at the EOP, it's a question on the application as well. If you're interested in the EOP program, they offer a grant as well. So grants and scholarships are the best, right? Because they're free money. You don't have to pay that back when you graduate, like me, and then you pay back student loans, right? Scholarships and grants are going to be the best because you don't have to pay those back. What comes next afterwards are going to be those loans, okay? But you need to fill out the FAFSA to get that sort of information and what you're going to be looking like before you can get that financial aid package, okay? And I think you had a presentation for financial information before, so that's a great resource to have. Hopefully you asked him all your questions because this gets very specific. And so it's definitely good that you had that presentation before. Next slide. Okay, so information about the SAT. Students, who has taken their SAT or ACT? Oh, I saw a very enthusiastic hand. Yes, taking your SAT or ACT. That is required for students, okay? Campuses may super score. What that means is that we would take the best of the attempts that you have taken. Sac State for sure will super score. That's one of the things you need to check with each campus. Can I take my SAT or ACT multiple times, and will you take the best out of the attempts that I took? Sac State allows you to do that, and will calculate your new eligibility based on the grade or the score that you want to use, the highest one that you've got. The essay is still not required. We still don't need it. I always, though, encourage students to take their essay because UCs require it, private schools will most likely require it as well. Keep your options open, right? You can somehow opt out of parts of the SAT, but I would recommend just take the full SAT, just get through the rhythm of taking that exam. Eligibility index, we'll talk about how to calculate that, but an eligibility index, it's a combination of a student's test scores and their GPA. It's a number that every student gets, and eligibility index was 2950 for in our residence, in our area, our local area service area, and 3570 for out of area. Okay, so it matters. It's a huge advantage being part of the local service area. Okay, because you'll probably be held to higher standards at another campus that you're looking at, like San Diego State. We're not in their local service area, right? Their local service area is the San Diego high schools. So you would probably be expected to uphold that higher number. So just some things to keep in mind and some questions to ask. What is the eligibility index if I'm out of area but I'm interested in your school, okay? Next slide. Freshman eligibility, another hot ticket item, right? How can I be eligible for the CSUs? The first one, you have to graduate. And students are like, yeah, well, that makes sense. But again, you would be surprised for students who have missed a graduation requirement and they don't get that date of when they graduated put on their transcript. You have to have graduated high school, okay? So students in the room right now, I used to be a high school senior as well, right? We want to make sure that we're finishing strong though, and we're finishing our courses and we're graduating high school, okay? Make sense? My seniors, we're going to graduate? Yes, yes we are. All right. You also have to complete something called the A through Gs. Who's heard of the A through Gs? Cool. It's great that a lot of students now know what those are because sometimes you go to schools and they have never heard them before. The A through Gs are the classes that you just so happen to be taking in high school, right? The math, the English, science, history, language other than English, visual performing arts, and a college prep elective. The classes that you just are already taking in a certain number of years. And we'll talk about the A through Gs and what the breakdown is. The eligibility index we just talked about, it's that combination, GPA and test scores. The eligibility index is really nice for students because let's say there's a student who is really good in school, right? Homework, tests, group projects, has a great GPA, but they're not so great at taking those standardized tests, right? It's a different way of learning and they just don't do as well on tests as they would doing school where they have that time to make it up. The eligibility index allows it to balance out, okay? It also goes the opposite way. A student who's like, you know, doesn't have a super stellar GPA, you know, homework, group projects, you know, it is what it is, but they can crank out those exams and they can just do those standardized tests no problem. Bravo to those students, I wish I could be you. But for students who are in that case, again, it balances it out. So that's a benefit for doing the eligibility index is it rewards both learning for students. Again, we don't use the writing section. A fourth of CSU campuses admit freshman applicants based only on CSU eligibility. We're only looking at these eligibility requirements for a lot of the CSUs, just making sure you meet these requirements, which makes it nice and easy for students. The UCs and privates, they have a little bit of extra steps involved. The CSUs, trying to make it as simple as we can, right? Okay, so this is the breakdown of the A through Gs, those college prep classes that you can be taking. It sounds like everyone's pretty familiar with these, the students. This is like a nice chart to, you know, make sure your student has completed these number of years, but it's really, and I'll tell you, this is one of the main reasons why students don't get admitted, is because they're deficient in something. They got a D in chemistry their sophomore year, years ago, and they never made it up. That is one of the main reasons why students don't get admitted is because they're deficient in something. Okay? So again, students who haven't submitted their application yet, take the time to really review and see if you're meeting these eligibility, because these are important. These are kind of like what we're checking for on the application, okay? And in senior year, you're still entering in your senior grades for fall and spring, so we can still see if you're deficient. The actual application, students, if you've seen it, it will tell you even before you move on to the next section, hey, you're deficient. You're not meeting your science requirement. You didn't take a history class. It will tell you right then and there. So you know if you kind of made a mistake on the application, you need to go back, or it lets you know, yikes, I need to talk to my counselor, okay? So just some things to keep in mind, okay, for the A through Gs. This is a very important part, students, so make sure that these classes, you're passing. Okay, so this is the eligibility index. The formula is really what we calculate. Students, this isn't like a math problem you need to fill out on the application. We're not gonna ask you for it. This is something that we as counselors use to give every student a number. So this is something we kind of do in-house. But again, it's that GPA and your test scores, minimum 2950, and again, that 3570 for non-California residents, and then the formula for the ACT as well. So like I said, how we were talking about if deficient in one, you can bring it up in the other. That's kind of what the chart is reflecting. But so if you feel like you're deficient in one area, you want to make sure that you do well in the other, so your eligibility index will balance out. But again, that's the formula that we use to sort of calculate everybody's. Every semester we'll get a different number, but 2950 is usually where we stay around for those in-area students. Next slide. Transfer. Is anybody interested in doing the transfer route? Woo, transferring, okay. Doing the transfer route is a really good option for students. You have Folsom Lake College very close by, right? Also, we have so many other local community colleges in the area, Sac City, American River College, Cosumnes River College, wherever one's closest to you, it's a really good option. So transfer requirements, you have to complete 60 or more transferable units, so you're gonna be an upper division student in order to be eligible to transfer, okay? Usually that takes students about 2.5 years. Okay, so we want to make sure that you're completing that degree or your time in your community college in a timely manner so we can get you to that 4-year to finish up your bachelor's, okay? 30 of those units will be general education. That's mostly what students are completing in those community colleges, as well as completing 4 classes. We call them our golden 4. So when you're going through this process of transferring, they also have counselors to kind of, help you along the way. But the golden 4, it's an oral communication class, written communication, critical thinking, and then a math above an intermediate algebra. 4 classes that we look for transfer students to have completed in order to transfer to the CSUs, okay? You also have to be in good standing in the last university attended, okay? So above a 2.0. This actually gets students into trouble too. So let's say a student goes away for college, right? They go to a CSU or a UC and they didn't do so well there, right? They took, their freshman year, they decided they didn't want to go there anymore, and now they want to come to another CSU. If you're only trying to transfer as a freshman, you probably only have about 15 to 30 units completed. That's not going to make you eligible for transferring, okay? So once you take college credit after you have graduated high school, and you want to kind of do the transfer route, you will be expected to do the 60 units, okay? So just keep that in mind. If you do decide to do the transfer route, the 60 units is usually what holds students up from completing that degree and getting done with the transfer route and getting to that 4-year college to complete their degree. Okay, so admissions and impaction. So there's kind of there's 2 ways that that is talked about impaction. You have campus impaction. A campus receives more eligible applications in the initial filing period than what we can accommodate for, more than how many spaces we have, okay? There's also program impaction. A campus receives more eligible applicants for a specific undergraduate program than what they can accommodate for. So there's 2 routes that they can go to, and every campus will be different on how they handle their impaction, okay? So those are kind of the 2 definitions. I've had a lot of questions today too about impacted majors, impacted programs, what does that mean? So we'll talk about 2. Next slide. So these are the impacted campuses as a freshman student, meaning we get a lot of applicants for freshmen, right? We have Chico, Humboldt, Los Angeles, Monterey Bay, Northridge, Pomona, Sacramento, San Bernardino, San Marcos, and Sonoma. We get a lot of freshman applicants, right? Those are going to be the schools that are deemed impacted campuses for freshmen. You have campus impaction for transfers. Chico, Los Angeles, Pomona, Sacramento, San Bernardino, San Marcos, and Sonoma State. Campus impacted for transfer students. Okay, so if you're looking to do the transfer route, we get a lot of applicants for transfers, right? So just some things to keep in mind on how the campuses is going to handle that impaction and how many applicants that we receive, and it's a lot. It's becoming increasingly more popular, right? Applications and admissions is just getting more and more popular, okay? Next slide. All undergraduate programs and undeclared are impacted, so that means all of the programs, Fresno, Fullerton, Long Beach, San Diego, San Jose, San Luis Obispo. That means all their programs are impacted, okay? So this is even kind of the schools who hold higher standards right here because they are all of them impacted. So you'll want to ask, if you're interested in these campuses, some questions to ask when you're looking at them. Next slide. So some questions for the Cal State Apply. Students, one more time, who started an application, like create an account maybe? Cool, a lot of you. Okay, has anyone finished? One? Awesome, good for you. So this is the Cal State Apply. All of the CSU campuses use this, okay? So in the Cal State Apply application, and I have cards and most of the CSU reps at the college fair have these cards, but we use the same application. So all of your information will go to the different campuses that you're interested in. In the beginning, it'll ask you to pick a program, and you can always go back and change the campus and the major that you're interested in, okay? Fee waivers, if you're eligible for the fee waiver, you can only get up to 4 of them, okay? So only 4 fee waivers to 4 different schools, okay? But the dates and deadlines, it opened October 1st, okay? I didn't see a ton of hands open or hands up. It closes November 30th. So for the students who haven't started it yet, I really encourage you to start it in October, okay? You're seniors, right? You got a lot going on just with your classes. School, exams start to build up in November because it's right before break. Make it a little bit easier on yourselves and complete it in October. It does take some time too. This is not something you can just crank out, right? This requires a student to really sit down. It does take a couple hours of sitting down and completing it, inputting in all of your grades, your classes, and putting them into this application. This is a lengthy process. Okay? Make sure that when you complete it, if you need help, talk to your counselors, call the schools, like I have a question about the application, I'm trying to apply for your school. These are a hard deadline to miss. It's a long time frame that students have to complete it, October 1st to November 30th. So parents and families, make sure your student completes their application as soon as they can, but the deadline is gonna be in November 30th. Next slide. Okay, at this point, we have about 15 minutes left, so if there's any questions. Yes, Manny.
So for the students that send the SAT scores, they only send it to one school, do they go to all the CSUs?
Yes, it should. If you send your SAT scores to one school, should it send to all of them? Yes, it should. You'll want to double check though when it gets time for your admissions decision, double check if all of your documents are there. I always recommend that just to be safe. Yeah?
Is the GI Bill applicable?
Is the GI Bill applicable? Yes, it is. So for Sac State specifically, we have a Veterans Affairs office who handles GI Bills, how to use those benefits and things like that. You'll definitely want to check in with the Veterans Affairs office on how you can utilize those resources. Other questions? Yeah. Sac State, there's about 7 of them: nursing, business, psychology, graphic design, health science, graphic design, did I say graphic design? Criminal justice. Those are going to be the impacted programs on our list, the big majors. Don't let that word scare you. If you're interested in an impacted program, it means that you complete the list of prerequisites and then apply once you have completed them. Okay, I'll be at my table. If you have any more questions following, please make sure you come and speak to me, okay? Thank you guys.